Welcome back to the Let's Pivot podcast, where we talk with owners and CEOs about their entrepreneurship journey and where they see things headed in the future. Today, we're joined with Miss Jaime Klein from Inspire Human Resources. How are you doing today, Jamie?
Thank you. I'm here in snowy New York, so it is good to be inside.
Very nice, very nice. So let's just jump right into it. Why did you decide to go out on your own and start your own business? What was that
Yes,
decision process like?
yeah. So I've always worked in HR. I started my career in HR way back in 1994, which is wild because I'm still 27 years old. And I was at American Express after doing all sorts of HR roles, and the doctor said, "Surprise, you're with twins." And when our kids arrived, I needed to really prioritize focusing on helping them hit their potential and raising them. And then when they were at a year old, I really had the desire to work again. And there wasn't anything out there that truly was fractional HR senior level work. So I started this from kind of the corner of our living room with like the Elmo doll on the floor and the Thomas the Train stuff. And we were really the first to market. We're kicking off our 20th year now, but it was truly kind of a need that I had personally. And I thought there have to be tons of very cerebral, driven HR leaders out there that also want to work in this very part-time way but have significant impact. And luckily, the market was really open to it, and we started diving in right away at both kind of Fortune 500 companies as well as you know venture-backed high growth companies as well that were thrilled to have someone come in with a level of experience, but just help them on a part-time basis. So that's kind of the backstory. Yeah. And now our twins are 20. They're actually studying abroad. One's in Paris today, literally, and the other's in Prague. So they're all sorts of grown and flown.
So much fun. So much fun. In those early days, before you were known, before fractional HR was even really a thing, how did you convince people? How did you find those first couple of clients? How did you make it something that people would accept?
Yeah, so Chuck, for real, I developed a website with the help of an old colleague of mine. For real, Chuck, I sent one of those emails out, those ones where you BCC 300 people and let them know that I had hung my own shingle and I was available to, I think I called it back then, hire, train, and retain. And, it was like to my college roommate, her parents, like everyone I had ever met. And for real, the very first client we got was from that email blast. And I thought, all right, maybe we're onto something. Then a company that I knew had someone out on parental leave. And they said, hey, can you help out? So I went in for 20, 30 hours a week filling in that leader of HR role. And while I was there, they said, someone just quit without a lot of notice. Could you stay on? And I said, sure. And then more and more requests came in. And so it was truly from, I think, that first email blast. And then just I joined a female founder networking group in New York. And that also just helped to figure out how I wanted to position ourselves, what our pricing model was going to be. There was this new thing back then called LinkedIn that was starting. So getting on that, but it really was that kind of roll up my sleeves, homegrown. Yeah.
Okay. And is that something that you think is still recommended today? Kind of following those grassroots, in person, shaking hands and kissing babies type of approach?
So I do. So I always feel that it's not so much in life what you say, it's how you make people feel, right? So to be with someone and tell them the service that you offer and listen to any pain points that they have or they might have a need and how you can help out, I think that that is still the number one way to get work. I think the other is doing really good work and having them refer you to a friend or have them go to another company and bring you in. I think also it's really important to find community. I think it can be lonely being a founder, being an entrepreneur. So to join, there's so many networking groups out there, whatever feels comfortable, but making sure that you have peers to run things by. And then I think also having a strong social media presence is also really helpful. That wasn't as big when I launched in '07, but that is huge. But I think last thing I would just say is building community. I think that things that you can do to try to create a sense of community among clients, potential clients, because I think it is tricky to always be having the answer for heads of HR or heads of finance or heads of companies. So to kind of have that intimate space with peers to really talk about what's keeping you up at night, I think also is really nice. And I still, after 20 years, I feel like we're only as good as our last project. I'm still really humble about every single project we get. I want to hit a home run because that you could do all the marketing in the world, but that's really where it's at, is making sure that I always say deliver and delight, right? Just kind of making sure that every client has a positive experience, which then goes to, you need to have really strong people on your team because they're a representative of your organization. Like we were talking earlier about the restaurant business, you can be the best cook and have a great vision, but if you do not have lovely staff that are waiting tables and remember who is the gluten allergy and that it's this one's birthday. I mean, it's not all the funding of the restaurant, how no matter how great that sushi recipe is, it doesn't, the impact is just a waiter leaving an impression that you're thrilled that they're there and it's the place of choice for them to eat in the future. Yeah.
So how do you personally balance that business versus mission and the thing that gives you the joy of doing it, right?
Yeah.
The rewarding
Yeah.
part.
I always say fractional work makes us whole. Like it makes us whole as a human to work fractionally because then you can show up. In my case, it was raising kids, but for other people, it's helping with aging parents. We have a woman on our team. She's a jazz singer. She literally sounds like Barbara Streisand and she drops records and then she can do work with our clients in between. So for me, I think that making sure that the mission, which is always kind of giving, providing unrivaled fractional talent, that's always first and foremost. But I want to do it in a way where it still feels mission driven, where the people, we call them our experts, our HR experts, really have the flexibility to show up for whatever fills their bucket and still do the meaningful work. So I've been asked this question a lot, and there, some of it it's art, some of it's science, but I think it's just making sure that you really spend time from the beginning with employees understanding their why they're kind of driven to do the work that they do, and then kind of figuring out the work that is going to be meaningful for them so they can still feel like a whole human. I don't know if that answered your question, but
I,
but to your original question of the mission, so for me it was to have a bit of flexibility to kind of, be a workaholic around hours that worked for our family, if you will. But I did find that as the company grew, it was trickier for me to have that personal balance. Is that what you mean?
yes, I mean, right,
Yeah.
like I love to cook, right? So that was
Yeah.
my passion. But opening a restaurant, you find out that's 10% of the business. So how do you
Yes.
balance between the passion and doing all of the things that aren't
Mhm.
necessarily enjoyable?
Yeah.
Finding clients, marketing, advertising, dealing with
Right.
employees, dealing with
Right. Yeah.
the
Well, for
fires,
one
the
thing,
whirlwind, I like
yeah.
to call it.
Well, for one thing, I have to get my hair colored because I have a lot of gray. So that's why I'm getting my hair colored. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that it is about being really honest with yourself and your own personal board of directors. That could be a friend, that could be a partner, that could be a business colleague. Like really checking in with yourself and your personal board of directors every once in a while and saying, things feel out of balance, right? Because there are times where I'm all in on work and I realize, my gosh, I have not done yoga in like a hot week. Like I have to go at least 3 times a week. What's the deal? And so having people in my life that remind me to do those things because sometimes I have that blind spot, or making sure that I do set boundary time to truly be offline for family vacations and recharge, um, or making sure that I put my iPhone in the living room while I sleep. So when I wake up, I can take a couple meditative breaths before I get online. So like these little things over time, whether it's external perspective from people or little things with giving myself break from tech, that have just kind of helped me stay centered. I also do a lot of power walking and yoga. And those things probably help a little bit to balance it all. Yeah, but I think it's tricky. I think your point is really smart. I think a lot of people get away from the original passion because they're running the company. And I think that you can handle that 2 ways. I think you can either make sure that you oversee the work of others, right? So if you're a chef, making sure that all your sous chefs or assistants in the kitchen that you can upskill all of them, because that feels a little bit like you're using your superpower. And the other, I think, is every once in a while for us, like I'll do a project, I'll support on a project from time to time with the strategy. Or if you're a chef, get in the kitchen and make some meals. But then you have to have a team behind it that work with you that can cover for the other administrative pieces if you're going to lean into doing the business, say the cooking or the HR consulting itself. So in any event, it's a tricky balance, but it still fills my bucket personally. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, after almost 20 years, where are you going? Where are you growing to? You have a
Mm,
looks like a pretty robust team. It looks like you built the machine, right? So where do you go from here? How do you scale that? How do you?
Yeah, my goal is to continue to really scale to make sure that all the experts on our team have plenty of work to do. I also would eventually love to expand whereby we could do more work abroad. I'm here in New York, but if we could find work to do outside of the US and other parts of North America or in Europe or Asia, I would love it. So that is something that I'd love to explore down the road.
Okay. And I'm just curious, how do you go about finding these new clients? Is it mostly referrals? Do you have an outreach program? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking to someone about this earlier today. So it's like, how much time do you have? It's a whole long list. So thing one is, I think, just doing amazing work and having people ask you to come in again. I know that sounds really boring, but that's the number one thing. The other is to do marketing. So I write blogs, I host a podcast, we sometimes are quoted in the press. I think that those types of things just help to just give you the visibility. We have a lot of people, we have a lot of companies that we love and trust, and they might do things that we don't do and vice versa. So sometimes we can make introductions to one another. Yeah, those are kind of the main things. And we do a lot on social media just to try to have a social media presence. People are so busy that I think even if you can just kind of, stay top of mind for them, that really helps. But it's funny, we do a very specific thing with all the advisory kind of HR consulting work that we do. And there's so many HR tech companies out there. There's so many executive search firms out there, right? There are a lot of other parts of the HR ecosystem that are really saturated with companies. There aren't a ton of companies that do fractional HR at the level, really strategic senior roles where they're, filling in a VP or more senior HR roles. So I think that being in a marketplace that isn't as crowded, like if you're in the restaurant space, there's tons of restaurants. It's a little bit different with the type of work that we do. So that I think is also just part of helping to build, build the business and find additional clients that we can help. Yeah.
Okay. And I always like to ask before I let you get away from us today,
Yeah.
what is your one piece of advice for, CEOs, entrepreneurs, people looking to grow their business or expand?
Yeah.
What do you have?
So, yeah, I think it's a great question. I think figuring out what your why is, because it can be very lonely being a founder, being an entrepreneur. So a lot happens late at night, a lot happens on the weekends, not when you have, not when you're on camera or not when you're on Zoom, but it's a lot of kind of you always are carrying this mental load, just thinking about the organization. How do you make sure it's on track? How do you make sure all your people are have all your employees are doing well? So I think that that has to be powered. All that energy has to be motivated by something specific. For some people, it's compensation. For some people, it's freedom. For me, it was the flexibility to really work around my family's needs. So no matter how intense the hours were, I knew I would never miss a school play. I knew for me, I could show up for every doctor appointment, be a class mom. Some years I was a class mom for both kids. And so it didn't matter if I was working literally till 2 in the morning because I knew that I could be there for the play. And you know what? Many times when I have worked till 2 in the morning, guess who's online? Email me back. The other badass female founders that are out there because none of them are missing their kids' school plays. Also, so many founders are female. There's been so much research on this because it's a little tricky sometimes to find the roles that you want in corporate structure just when you're trying to juggle other things. So that's a whole other podcast we could do another time. But essentially, I think that that's a big piece of it. Figure out the whole reason underneath it, and that will fuel you more than any compensation, mentioned in the press, anything, because that's the thing that kind of fills your soul. And the other thing is really to find other people that are also entrepreneurs. One could be a chef, one could be an attorney, one could be a jewelry maker, but the problems that entrepreneurs are challenged by are so common, right? Marketing, tech, HR, we're here to help if you need it. I can't like all that stuff. That infrastructure stuff is so common across businesses, and figuring out how AI can really automate joyless work and really power things. Get those brilliant ideas from other folks who are in the trenches just like you. So I think in some, finding your purpose and finding community are probably two key things. Yeah.
Purpose and community. I love it. Great
Yeah.
advice. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Miss Jamie,
you.
for joining us today. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it. It's been a great conversation.
absolutely. Thank you, Chuck. It's a pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.